Hi everyone. This lecture covers contemporary design that includes three major styles: high tech, postmodernism, and deconstructivism. In contemporary design, there's been an urge to replace the international style as a theme of modernism. There's been a growth of true internationalism. Growing ease and speed of communication have increased awareness of design throughout the world by way of magazines and books. As a result, design work has become truly an international profession. Buckminster Fuller is responsible for inventing the geodesic dome. He developed a geometric concept using triangulated units to create the spherical dome. This example is the Montreal Biosphere, which he designed for the United States Pavilion at Expo 67 in Montreal. It is a partial sphere constructed with lightweight rods using the geometry of Fuller's geodesic dome. The U.S. donated the building to Montreal, and it is now a museum dedicated to the environment. The building houses exhibits on platforms reached by escalators. Automatic shutters controlled the daylight pouring in from the plastic panels that formed the outer skin of the metal structure. This is Buckminster Fuller's home in Carbondale, Illinois. Fuller was a professor in the design department at Southern Illinois University from 1959 to 1972. He is arguably a grandfather of the Green Movement. The geodesic dome is still often today referred to as the Bucky Dome. Bucky also developed a concept he named tensegrity, a structural organization that forms a continuous field of tensions and compressions which hold the object in constant equilibrium and make it mechanically stable. In general, the system works by joining opposing forces and, according to Fuller, is the structural basis of nature, capable of, with a minimum of elements, forming a strong structure. American contemporary sculptor Kenneth Snelson is a former student of Buckminster Fuller's. He played an essential role in the development of the structural system, working with pieces composed of rigid and flexible components. Snelson's work that best embodies the system is the Needle Tower, a sculpture created in 1968 that allowed Fuller to theoretically develop the idea from tensile integrity analysis. The geodesic dome, designed by the architect, already hinted toward the notion of the tensile structures in 1948. Rigid bars act on compression forces and are arranged in an isolated, non-touching manner, complementing the steel cables that receive tensile forces. The concept was expanded, incorporating structures that may not be self-balanced, but which contemplate the principle, formed by tension cables and compressed bars isolated from each other, like Fuller's geodesic domes. The modern movement viewed technology as one of its prime bases. In recent decades, technology has made vast steps forward, particularly in the technology associated with aircraft, space exploration, and the associated advances in communication and computers. The popular term given to design based on advanced technology is high tech. It's taken from a 1978 book of the same name, which documented the trend toward using industrial materials like steel, concrete, and glass in design. Designers of high-tech style note that more than half the cost of any modern project is generated by electrical, plumbing, and air quality systems. Adding basic structure and mechanical transport, like elevators, escalators, and moving sidewalks, technology becomes a major component of any building or interior. The decision to make these systems visually dominant and to maximize their impact leads to the special quality of high-tech design. Interiors in this style use structural columns, beams, ductwork, and other mechanical elements as the decorative framework. Let's take a look at some more examples. Probably the best known and most accessible of the high-tech projects is the Centre Pompidou in Paris. It is a multi-purpose cultural center designed by Renzo Piano and Richard Rogers in 1972 to 76. The building exposes and displays its structure, mechanical systems, vertical transportation, and pipes on the exterior of the building. The architect's goal was to show the public how a building functions. They color-coded the different systems. Air pipes are blue, water pipes are green, vertical transportation is red, and electricity is yellow. Because the systems are on the exterior, it allowed them to create huge uninterrupted space inside. The interior displays overhead ductwork, lighting, and piping. Moving on, let's talk about postmodernism. Postmodernism is a short-lived but enormously influential movement within contemporary design. It rejected the rigidity of the international style design and instead borrows and adapts elements of classical styles from centuries of building that were abandoned by modernism. Much of it was deliberately witty and pokes fun at more straight-laced conventional objects. Postmodern design was too extreme to last and was out of fashion by the 1990s, but its after effects are still seen today in the provocative use of color and whimsical elements. This example is by Robert Venturi. The monumental front facade is a classical gable, but is broken in the middle, totally denying the function of the form. The design intentionally manipulates classical architectural elements that indicate a building's scale. A non-structural applique arch and decorative lintel are wider than necessary to span the entryway and serve no actual purpose. With projects like these and his book called Complexity and Contradiction in Architecture were an open challenge to modernist orthodoxy. Venturi also applied his postmodern maxim, less is more, to furniture, when he and Scott Brown created a range of chairs for Knoll in the early 1980s. The collection offered a decorative take on historical furniture styles like Chippendale, Queen Anne, Empire, Hepplewhite, Sheridan, Biedermeier, Gothic Revival, Art Nouveau, and Art Deco. They flattened the traditional forms and left just the silhouette to define them, and then covered them in colorful patterns. They chose materials that would allow the chairs to be cheap and easy to produce so that they would be available to everyone. Here's another example mocking the historical Chippendale style. And this example makes a design metaphor with the Empire style. Venturi delighted in design that is purely decorative and broke down barriers between traditional and modern design. Architect Philippe Starck also took a postmodernist approach with the design of his ghost chair for Cartel in 2002. Starck plays with form and materials to recreate the royal Louis XV chair concept using translucent, injection-molded polycarbonate. More than 1 million of these chairs have been sold. Starck made his most permanent mark on design through his bold reworkings of everyday objects. In reimagining and rethinking design, he has produced some of the iconic shapes of the 20th century, including his leggy chrome juice squeezer. Likely the only juicer displayed at MoMA, Starck's aluminum tripod design could be mistaken for a streamlined alien invader from a 1950s pulp comic. He's rumored to have said, "It's not meant to squeeze lemons, it is meant to start conversations." His work can often be more sculptural than practical. Michael Graves was an architect who helped define postmodernism in architecture, embracing decorative details, strong color, and forms that draw from classical architecture. Again, we want to talk about scale. Often, the determination of postmodernism is to escape from logic and order, and so we see things that traditionally would be at a much smaller scale blown up into a much larger scale. This kind of eccentricity became tools in postmodernism to communicate with a population whose ideas come from entertainment, television, film, and the internet. Graves' designs attracted the attention of Disney. For them, he designed the Swan and the Dolphin hotels. His work lent itself well to the playful and whimsical nature of Walt Disney World design. The designs feel very thematic in nature. Michael Graves is also known very well by the public for some other objects, household objects, that he designed for companies like Alessi and Target. They are deemed works of art that also work. His tea kettle for Alessi features a spout with a bird that sings when the water boils. In 2003, Graves was paralyzed from the waist down from an infection. He used a wheelchair for the rest of his life. After the illness, he began designing for people with disabilities. He designed items including a wheelchair, heating pads, and bathroom handrails and accessible homes for the Wounded Warrior Project. He said in 2009 he liked his designers to spend time in wheelchairs while working on certain products so that they'd know what it's like. That understanding of being in the wheelchair and strapping you in and not being able to get out is a very, very good experience, he said. His disability aids demonstrate the sense of playfulness, also evident in his Target collection. Michael Graves died in March of 2015. The last area we want to cover is deconstructivism. It's a style of architecture from the 1980s and 1990s that focuses on assembly of broken fragments, essentially tearing something apart to put it back together again. Works which are broken up with loosely assembled parts and elements that were seemingly torn apart and reassembled in chaos are typical. The term comes from a French philosophy that aims to break up elements into component parts in an effort to reveal meaning that is not apparent on the surface. Very philosophical. Bernard Chemy's Parc à la Villette was selected for an exhibition on deconstructivism at the MoMA. Chemy placed small pavilions, all formed from basic cubes, deconstructed into complex geometric realities, painted bright red and placed according to a geometric grid in an open park. Frank Gehry is probably one of the best-known deconstructivists. This is the Razin Building, done in 1992. It's also known as the Dancing House or Fred and Ginger, and it was designed by Frank Gehry in Prague in the Czech Republic. The Weizmann Art Museum in Minneapolis, Minnesota was designed by Gehry in 1994. It combines a simple, almost conventional gallery plan with complex curving skylight forms and an entrance of amazing complexity, emphasized by its cladding in gleaming stainless steel. Also designed by award-winning Frank Gehry is the Ray and Maria Strata Convention Center. It was opened in 2004. It houses MIT's Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Labs, the Department of Linguistics and Philosophy, and the Laboratory of Information and Decision Systems. On completion, it was celebrated for its bold, angular design that was said to challenge the laws of physics. In 2007, MIT filed a lawsuit for negligence against Gehry after design flaws and major structural problems were identified. Issues with drainage caused walls to crack, massive icicles hung precariously during winter months, and even mold grew on the exterior walls. Repairs and alteration work cost the school more than $1.5 million. The construction company, Skanska USA, claimed that they had warned the architect of the design issues on numerous occasions. Apparently, this fell on deaf ears, and they were told to proceed with the original designs. The company's spokesman went on to say it was difficult to make the original design work. Not content with providing MIT with a flawed building design, Frank Gehry has gone on to produce other potentially lethal buildings. The Walt Disney Concert Hall is an ambitious building by design that comes at a cost. The building is very shiny, with lots of elegant curves, albeit in seemingly haphazard fashion. Naturally being shiny and curvy, the building tends to reflect a lot of sunlight. These reflected rays have the potential for blinding drivers and heating up neighboring buildings by 9 degrees Celsius. Believe it or not, so bad is the effect that local sidewalks can be heated up by 60 degrees Celsius. Gehry has also designed many furniture pieces. In 1972, he introduced a group of furniture products made from cardboard, which you saw in the Pop Modern lecture, like the Wiggle Chair, reintroduced by Vitra in 1992. Other iconic pieces include a collection for Knoll Studio made of strips of laminated wood. They're based on a hockey theme, a sport that Frank Gehry absolutely loves. The top left one is called Hat Trick. There's the cross check, the power play chair and ottoman, the high sticking chair, and the face-off table. Rem Koolhaas's architecture bridges the styles we've discussed thus far: high-tech, postmodernism, and deconstructivism. He's known for his striking, often gravity-defying structures. Rem Koolhaas has built a reputation as one of the top architects of the 21st century. The Seattle Central Library was designed to accommodate all kinds of media and grow over time. The space is organized into 5 platforms, with 4 planes in between. The library's collection is stored in the Book Spiral, a continuous shelving system of more than 6,200 bookcases. The De Rotterdam complex, located in the Dutch city of the same name, was devised as a vertical city and is composed of 3 towers that house apartments, offices, shops, restaurants, and a hotel. At nearly 500 feet tall and with 1.7 million square feet of floor space across the towers, the building is the largest in the country. The cantilevered Seoul National Museum of Art follows the curve of the South Korean landscape and is raised on a central core that contains an atrium and staircase. The building, finished in 2005, includes educational spaces such as a lecture hall and auditorium, a library, and exhibition space. In 2015, Koolhaas completed the Garage Museum of Contemporary Art in Moscow. The design centered on the renovation of an abandoned 1960s restaurant and enclosed the concrete building in a polycarbonate facade. The 58,000 square foot structure features 2 floors of exhibition space, an auditorium, a children's center, a shop, a cafe, administrative offices, and a roof terrace. Koolhaas reinvented the skyscraper with his Beijing headquarters for CCTV. The building's 2 towers are connected by a 246-foot cantilevered section known as the overhang. The exterior is sheathed in sun-shaded glass with a striking pattern of triangulated steel tubes, which form part of the support structure. Located in Porto, Portugal, and completed in 2005, the Casa de Música is home to the National Orchestra of Porto. Koolhaas placed the faceted, white concrete building in the middle of a public square and included corrugated glass facades to open the theater to the city. The building features a 1,300-seat auditorium, a smaller performance space, rehearsal rooms, bars, a restaurant, and administrative offices. And lastly, one of my very favorites of all time, Zaha Hadid. Zaha was a student of Rem Koolhaas and is an internationally famous architect as well. Like Frank Gehry, she began to design in a way that relies on the computer to make possible the realization of designs that would be impossible to execute on paper. You'll get to know her a lot, her very intensely futuristic architecture, a lot more when you watch the film Who Dares Wins for your media response. See you later.